Hello everybody, you're very welcome back to Town Farm and Cookery School. I'm going to share with you a recipe today for high fibre brown bread. And this, of all the recipes I share, is one of my favourite ones to share, because for me brown bread was the first thing that my grandmother Winnie Egan showed me how to make. I was knee-high to a grasshopper. She popped me up on the kitchen table and she showed me how to weigh it out, how to get the lumps out of the bread so in the palm of my hand, which I'll show you today. And it was my job after that then to make the brown bread. So for me, thinking back on it now, and always every time since that I make brown bread, I still get as much joy out of it as I did the first time I made it. And if I can share that with you, and if you can get as much joy and satisfaction as I've got, well then I do feel my job is done, and it's a privilege to share this. And I do think back of my own mother, my own family, my grandmother, who passed it on to me. So in turn, I'm passing it on to you. But not only just the joy and satisfaction out of making bread, it's the health benefits of brown bread, and particularly high fibre. Because in this day and age, we are consuming so much processed food. A lot of processed food has become very cheap, which is not a good thing either. But the more whole foods that we can introduce into our body, into our diet, the better we are for it. You might not visibly see it, but inside our body is functioning much, much better. So that said, we're going to get on with making the brown bread, and thank you for listening to my little story. So here I have I have just some wheaten meal, Heart's Delight wheaten meal I use all the time, but you can use whatever you want. Now if you use the coarser wheaten meal or brown meal, it might just take less or more milk, so you can just alter it as you go along. So I have Heart's Delight wheaten meal in there. I'm going to add in some of the jumbo. Now this is that's my favourite porridge to use, is that we use this all the time here. Jumbo, but you can use the ordinary flakes or the ordinary bag of porridge, but that's the organic jumbo oats there. In we go. I have here some self-raising flour in there, and I'm going to add in a little bit of butter, again just to give that crunch or a nice crumb, and also to give it a nice crust. And then I'm also going to add in some of our raising agent, which is, just pop our sieve up there. It's important to raise out. And actually, I might just get you to pause there for 1 second. I'm just going to show you the way my grandmother used to make sieve out the bread soda. So you of course can use a sieve, but I'm just showing you for old time's sake and just in memory of my mother and my grandmother how I was taught first how to do it. So you get your teaspoon, and bread soda helps your bread to rise. So you get your teaspoon of bread soda, and just if you have any lumps in there, if you had a lump that remained in your bread, you'll see little green spots. Now it is important to be accurate with your weighing out of your bread soda in particular, because if you have too much bread soda, your bread will be too brown and you'll get that tarty taste, little kind of sizzle on the top of your tongue, so to speak. So the way I was shown was, anyway, just pop your bread soda onto the palm of your hand. Can you see it there, Michael? And then just like with the tip of your spoon, just come along and and I remember I used to spend ages doing this. I used to love it, absolutely love it. And I'd be pressing it out just like that and then pushing it back in. And this was to ensure that there was no lumps. And that, as I said, just gives me so much happy memories, even now, right here, to be doing that. So that's it. You can see we have no lumps in there now. So we just tip that in. But as I said, you can, of course, use your sieve. But maybe you can try that as well, because it's a lovely thing to do. And so what I'm going to do now is just 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt in there. I'm making 1 loaf tin of bread here. So I have it lightly greased there with a little bit of butter. And again, always just dust in a little bit of flour, just a bit on your fingertips, and just shake it around like that. Just like that. And that's it. That's our flour ready to go, our tin ready to go. So into that, I'm also going to have our egg ready to go. And the seeds that I'm using here today is the pumpkin seed, and I have sesame seeds. Now you could use, of course, you could use walnuts, you could use linseeds, you can use pecan nuts, the little cashew nuts, pine nuts, any nuts or seeds that you want. Chia seeds. It's a great way of getting them into the diet. And now the other thing, your colour will change the pumpkin seed, and that's just the reaction with the bicarbonate of soda, what it's called sometimes, the bread soda, to the pumpkin seeds, but that's okay, that's normal. So now what we're going to do, we have all our dry ingredients in there, and we're just going to go with our fingertips and rub in our flour just like that. And as I always say, there's an old rule of thumb that you never get the flour above your knuckles. So you can try it out and see how good you are when you're rubbing in your butter into your pastry for your apple tarts or scones or anything like that. So just lightly rub it in, and you don't have to rub it until it's completely obliterated. If you see an odd little lump, it's no harm at all. So the reason that I put the porridge in there, it just gives a little bit of more conditioning to your bread, and it also gives it a little bit kind of a nicer texture as well as the fibre into your bread. Now, if you went for all brown, like all wheat meal, all porridge, I find that the bread like that tends to crumble, and just the white bit of flour in there just stabilizes it a little bit. That's all. So that's our bread fairly well mixed there now, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to add in our seeds now and just mix it around. And I remember my granny Egan, she used to have her wedding ring, her wedding band on, and you'd hear the wedding band hitting off the side of the bowl. It was a big brown bowl, just the same, mason bowls I think they're called, just the very same as this, and I can still hear her finger hitting off the side of the bowl. So that's our seeds mixed evenly, and so we just, I should have a fork, but just lightly beat up your egg, just like that, and you make the well in the centre of your flour. Add in all of your egg, okay, and egg is lovely in bread. And then I'm going to get some buttermilk, and where's my buttermilk on? Here we go. Always have your buttermilk at room temperature, just like that. Now this bread, you don't need to knead this bread. It's a really easy one to start off with if you haven't made bread before. So just get your hand in there. I always use my hand. I just find it's great to get your hand in, because you can kind of know if it's too wet or too dry without over mixing it. And it is, of course, like your scones or pastry, don't overwork it. So just see the way I'm going down there and I'm scooping it up just like that, and I'm just kind of going to start pressing it together like that. Okay, so maybe another little bit of milk. So it's a kind of a drop in consistency that we're looking for here. So that should do it. And your oven should be preheated at about 190 degrees. So we'll just pop this into our tin. Okay, just like that. So as you can see, there's no kneading. It's a great one to start off with. Now the one that I start off with making with my grandmother was more of a traditional one, where it'd be half and half. It'd be a pound of flour to a pound of wheat meal, and it's still lovely bread. It's one I make quite a bit. And you can also add your flour and your seeds and nuts in there as well. So just roughly, just pat it along like that. Don't butter it on top. You don't want it leveled out too much. So I'm just going to go and wash my hands. Yeah. Now what you can do, your loaf is in the tin. It's a 2 pound loaf tin, by the way. And you can just scatter along some of your jumbo oat flakes on top. This is purely just for decoration. I just also want to give you an idea. We have some chia seeds. Just decorate, you could have put these into the cake as well. And we have a few little linseeds just on top. Now I find the Asian shops are great to get any of your seeds and nuts and things like that. So that's, just take these out of the way. And that's ready to go into the oven. And now I have 2 that I just made earlier. So I multiply that recipe by 2 and that's what's coming out of the oven. So if you want to multiply by 3, most domestic ovens now will take 3 or 4 of those and freeze them then just as they're gone cool. So out we come, and your kitchen will be smelling lovely. And here they are. Voila! Oh, are they gorgeous? So I'm just going to, yeah, my oven is hot enough. I'm going to hop that one in now, 190 degrees, in there into the center of the oven. So basically what we do is, you just turn them over, and if you want to come in there for a second, Michael, listen. Do you hear the hollow sound? That's what you're looking for. And your bread will feel lovely and light. And that is, you see the little ripples up there, the rustic look of it, and that when you slice through that bread, that's what's lovely, the lovely crunch of that crust, absolutely gorgeous. And it is important, the minute your bread is cooked, take it out and pop it onto a wire tray so that the air can circulate underneath, because if you left your brown bread in that tin, the condensation is built up, and as Mary Berry does say, you get a soggy bottom. So that'll cool off nicely. So as I was saying, if you allow that to cool, and just at the point when it's cool enough, pop it into a freezer bag and into your freezer then, and you will take, when you take it out of the freezer, it'll be absolutely delicious. And the other thing I was going to say was, just and the point of economics, I am always fascinated when you see the brown soda breads on sale in your local shop and the price they are, as a comparison to the price of your flour, your wheat meal and your plain flour, and your few little, remember your nuts and seeds are all, they're all extras. But even if you just stuck to your flour, your wheat meal and your oatmeal and your buttermilk, it's so much cheaper to make your own brown bread. Economically, it wins out. And the other thing as well is that I have never ever bought the supermarket bread or the processed brown bread, and it would never ever come near the taste of your own homemade brown bread. So it's all, you know, in your advantage to try and make your brown bread and have it in the freezer. But when a brown cake comes out of the oven, I always say the first one is devoured in literally just like that. And if you have, as my Aunt Evelyn used to say, if you have a lovely pot of homemade jam and a fresh brown cake, you're never stuck if somebody calls into the house. But that's it, guys. A really healthy and a really simple, high fibre brown bread. And as I said earlier on, if I have achieved nothing only for you to learn one thing out of all these series with the Longford Library Services, is to make the brown bread, I'm absolutely thrilled. And for anyone that would turn around to you or me and say, oh sure, that's only brown bread, well, I think they've got notions above their station. Because the simple things in life, the brown bread, the scones, even the other day we were talking about pancakes, the simple things done well never go out of fashion. But for now, everybody, thank you for watching, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.